offensive coordinator in January. And boy, doesn't that feel like it was about 8 years ago. He joins us on halftime right now from Fayetteville. Kendal, appreciate you joining us today. So does it feel like it's been just, 6 months since you signed your contract, or does it feel more like 6 years?
Well, the last 3 months, it felt like about 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been crazy, and, it feels a lot longer than 6 months for sure, just because nothing's been normal. Maybe the first 6 weeks I was here, and then after that, it's been pretty abnormal. But, we've made the most of it just like everybody else.
That's right, yeah. You've come on the air with us today on the same day where a massive, a controversial topic seemingly has been put to bed of sorts. I'm not sure if you saw this, but Hunter Yurachek announced that Arkansas can schedule Arkansas State and UCA in all sports except football. And I'm thinking sooner or later that'll happen. But do you know how much of a controversy this has been in the state of Arkansas for
No, I got no idea. Repeat that again for me.
Arkansas will be allowed to schedule the University of Central Arkansas and Arkansas State in non-football sports for the first time ever because of scheduling concerns. So you've got, it's a huge deal for fans of Arkansas, man, and I just didn't know if you were aware of that.
No, I was not. Had no idea. You would think that had been going on forever, but wow, I bet everybody's pretty excited in the state to see the matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Well, anyway, I want to ask what the last few days have been like before we get into the players returning to campus and getting in the voluntary workouts and what the next couple of months might be like. But these last few days have really been, and a lot of us have been soul-searching, and I know that the team and various players and the coaching staff were involved in the protest at the town square on Tuesday night. And I just, what have these last few days been like for you as you've seen some of your players get involved in a way that athletes usually don't?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of keeping all of our thoughts in-house, just as a football staff and program, and obviously our players, with freedom of speech, and everybody's going to state their opinion and go and protest if they want, and those are all their American rights. So all of our opinions and the things that that we talk about, we're keeping within our football building.
Well, at least the guys know that you have their backs. I think that's probably the most important part of it, is that these student athletes always want to feel like you have their back. And I just get the sense that the last few days they can't feel otherwise. They have to feel like this coaching staff is standing behind them.
I think you can't earn trust unless you're just around somebody. And I think even the short time that we had together and Coach Pittman was here in December, he had a little bit more time around the players, but just the full coaching staff, once we got around the guys, and Coach Jamil Walker and his staff were working out the players, and we were around them and got to have some meetings. I think there was some genuineness and some authenticity that the players felt, and that's straight from Coach Pittman and the rest of the coaching staff. And so I think there was a good bond and trust there. And we just hated that, everything happened with the coronavirus, and we had to get away from them for a little while. And, with our meetings, you can still see guys face to face and have those conversations. We're talking on almost a daily level. So, I think they still trust us, and, it's a big deal in collegiate athletics.
Speaking to offensive coordinator Kendal Briles here on halftime, I want to get your thoughts on a couple position groups that we've got coming in. I mean, obviously we're getting into involuntary workouts, but I kind of want to look ahead just for a moment. We had a couple new key Razorbacks. T.J. Hammond's back on scholarship with the Razorbacks. I was just curious from your standpoint as the OC. I feel like T.J. Hammond's talent and his skill set meshes perfectly into what your offense will replicate on Saturdays.
Yeah, time will tell. I sure hope so. From an explosive standpoint, he's got it. I mean, being able to watch him throughout the workouts, and he's quick twitch. He's he's not a small guy, probably 6 foot. Great personality, really kind of an infectious personality, and I'm excited to see what he can do with the ball, and that'll kind of determine what we feel like, how we can use him offensively, whether it's in the backfield or out at receiver. So I think he's athletic enough to be able to do, a couple of different things. So, yeah, once we get out there and figure out exactly what we can do with, we can put him to use.
I also think a key part of the offense for you this year is going to be the senior running back, Rakeem Boyd, coming back for his senior year. Pittman mentioned a couple days ago, wanted to help him improve his value as an NFL prospect. Is there an area of focus in your mind that you and the coaching staff might try to focus on to improve his draft stock?
If you ask Rakeem that question, he would say he just wants to win. And, I think winning football games improves every player on your team's draft stock. And obviously you have some players that are drafted off teams that don't win a lot of games. But winning helps everything and all the players and everybody in the building. So first and foremost, that's what we want to accomplish is just winning football games. Just looking at I didn't really watch any of the tape from last year, looking at some of the specialists, so-called, when kids are coming out as a junior. I think a couple of the things were some of the blocking and pass catching ability out of the backfield. So, if you hand him the football and he's running, he's dang good. But if we can polish up every other part of his game, and I think mentally he's in a great spot, and he's ready to go.
And with everything going on right now, between the coronavirus and obviously getting ready for voluntary workouts, not going to be a lot of practice, I would say, like practicing the new offense and getting up to speed with everything. So I guess my question is, what kind of plan do you guys have in place to try to get these players up to speed with the new offense? Because, obviously no dates have been set for practicing per se. So I'm just kind of curious from your standpoint and Coach Pittman's standpoint, is there a plan in place to kind of get these guys up to speed? You can talk about the offense, but kind of getting reps, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Sure, yeah, because the last, 2 months, we've done everything that we can to try to work the mental side of the offense, and that's one of the things that we've explained to our players that, this is, you can sit here and be in a calm environment and answer questions, but that's not reality. That's not football. You're going to have this stuff where it's second nature, so you see signals, you react, you process, and then you got to know all situations involved with that as well. So there's going to be, and it's for any first-year staff that didn't get a chance to go through spring ball, there's going to be that learning curve of being able to figure out what guys can handle from a mental standpoint, and then you got to adjust. As a coach, that's why they call us coach. We got to adjust off of what our players can and can't handle, and make sure we're not putting them in positions that they can't succeed. So those are the things that we've been doing. Moving forward, basically just kind of waiting on a date and not really sure when that's going to happen. But, if the SEC commissioner comes out and says July 15th that, you're going to start going to the 8-hour rule and we're going to be able to meet with them and have a football and do walkthroughs, then that's when you really kind of buckle into, hey, we're getting reps, we're going to work against this defense this day, this the next day, and start trying to walk through reps and be able to coach on the field with our players, which we have not been able to do. So that would be huge.
I know, and you still haven't been able to see Felipe Franks throw a football yet. Can you get that on the schedule, you think, anytime in the next 2 weeks? That's so bizarre.
No, not in the next 2 weeks. I don't see it happening. Earliest would be July 1st. I think that's a stretch. I think, and this from, what we've been hearing, it could change right now. You never know. But kind of hearing more maybe mid-July.
Is there a position group on offense that you think might be strongest? That's a listener question that came in earlier.
These questions are they're a little bit loaded because we haven't seen them.
Sure.
If we'd go through spring ball, then I'd be able to shoot one out real quick. I think our running back room is strong. I like the players that we have in there. Hopefully the quarterback room. I don't feel like, I'll put it this way, I don't feel like there's a room that we have this week. So I don't want to cheer somebody up to saying they're the strongest because I really don't know, but I can say that I don't feel like any room this week.
Well, let me ask this about your offense. We had Trey Knox on a few weeks ago, and I've seen some other wide receivers comment on their understanding as you've been meeting with them on Zoom for the last number of weeks, that they feel that wide receivers get a lot of freedom. So tell me what that means exactly. And how do these guys get freedom, and what do you expect out of them?
Well, they got to earn their freedom. If put guys out there and they show that they can't handle some of the cuffs off approach, then kind of slap one back on them. So it depends. Just with our offense and what we do allow some freedom in our route running, and basically just try to give our guys the best opportunity to win, and not make the game of football so tough on the players. These guys have been playing the game in the front yard, backyard since they were 5 years old, just like all of us. And the reason they're playing is because they love the game. So we don't want to make the game where it's like a science project and they don't like coming to work. I mean, we want it to be fun. We want to allow them to have some freedom and feel like they can be successful. And if they can prove that they can do that on a routine basis, then we'll allow them to do those things.
And in your answer there, I'm hearing something that I also saw a quote from you, speaking to Tom Murphy from the Democrat Gazette in January, that I think speaks to what you're saying here. And this is your quote: "A lot of people try to make the game about X's and O's when it's really about people." You're talking, everybody wants to talk with a coordinator about their scheme. I think you are more interested in the people that you're handling and treating them like people and going from there. Would that be accurate?
That is accurate. I don't want to say I'm more interested in it. If you got a trick play that works, then pass it over to me. I'll shoot you my email. I mean, I love scoring points, but to me, it's just, I was a player, and I had fortunate, played for my dad, and just seeing the way that he treated people and the way people reacted to that, and seeing it my whole life. If you go to work every day and you don't know what's gonna happen at work, and at one time, the guy that you're working with is this way, and the next time he's a different way, then it kind of shelters you and doesn't allow you to be you. And what we want to, and it's just genuine, but we're going to be ourselves, and we think that's good enough. And what you end up, I think, getting is you get the best out of each and every one of the players, because now they feel comfortable in their environment and allows them to thrive and be who they are.
Kendal, I'm glad that you mentioned your playing career, because I want to end on an interesting stat that I found here. Kendal Briles began his college career as a defensive back at Texas, transferred to Houston when his father took over as the head coach, and then switched positions. I know you played both ways in high school. He switched to becoming a running quarterback at Houston for 2 years. Kendal Briles must be one of the only players in the history of college football that has as many interceptions as a defender as he has passes thrown as a quarterback. You had 2 interceptions and 2 passes thrown in your career. I find that rare.
That's extremely. You know what that proves you? It just proves that I really wasn't good enough to play anything. They slapped me out there on the field every once in a while, but couldn't sustain a position, I guess.
Well, it looked like you ran a whole lot than you threw, because you did a lot of running.
Yeah, I did a lot of running, and I tell you, playing defensive back, I played University of Texas and played for Dwayne Akina, who I think is one of the finest defensive back coach in the country, who's at Stanford now, and really learned a lot of football from him, just because I'd kind of grown up knowing, all my dad knew, and being able to hear the way other people teach the game and talk about the game and think about the game and the different situations and formations. It really kind of opened me up, and I still use a lot of the principles that I learned when I was a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid from Dwayne Akina that I apply today. So it was really great playing for him, and then, went over there to Houston and played little quarterback and receiver.
That's great stuff, Kendal. Appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for your time. Good luck. I know you'll be excited with the whole staff and everybody coming back in, and we're fired up too. Good luck, my man.
You're the man.
Again.
Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank y'all. Go Hogs.
You got it. It's Kendal Briles, offensive coordinator. It sounded like he wasn't even aware of that stat. Leave it to the stat geeks to point out to the athletes their own statistics sometimes.
That's what we're here for.
Yes.